Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. I'm joined with my usual co-hosts, Zach and Emmett, and we're doing a couple different pieces of content for you this weekend. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit of a recap of the past week with MSU basketball and the happenings from hockey. And then later today, we're also going to do a different episode talking MSU recruiting and maybe have a special guest join us for that. So some interesting things coming for you, and maybe help break up the monotony of the end of football season / early holiday time for basketball season. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Hope you guys have had a good week. I know my schedule's been crazy, so I've been hit and miss, but I hope you guys are doing good.
Oh, pretty well. Can't complain. How are you doing, Emmett?
I'm doing pretty good. It's almost like you just got married or something, Chris, so it's almost like, we've all been a bit busy and you've had, the most exciting time of your life, so.
Yeah, been a busy few days, that's for sure. Had a wedding, had some car fun to do, had my dog had to go in for a minor surgery that happens to dogs at this age. Been a fun week. Let's say that. So, but we're back. We're ready to record, and we're ready to recap what was. I guess we'll start off with last weekend. MSU basketball demolishing Nebraska. That was. For me, I thought MSU had a good chance of winning the game going into it, but I didn't certainly expect to see what transpired, I guess. So, final score, MSU 89, Nebraska 52 at the Breslin Center last week. Very comfortable win for the Spartans, something we haven't seen in quite some time, so that was good to see. And I guess that I'll intro it with that and throw it off to you guys. What were your guys' takeaways? I know Emmett was there. Zach, I don't know how much of it you got to see, but what were your guys' thoughts?
I think your intro kind of really explains it a little bit. It's just, this isn't something we've seen from Michigan State in the last couple of years, especially in Big Ten games. Outside of kind of like the really bad teams in the Big Ten, I don't think Nebraska is a bad team whatsoever. I think they're going to be a pretty decent to a good team in the Big Ten. Do I think they're going to be a team that's going to compete for the Big Ten championship? Obviously, no, I don't really think so. They're not there, but this is a team in Nebraska that coming in to this game, we were really saying, hey, we want Michigan State to get off to a 2-0 start in Big Ten play, which obviously last year did not happen. This year, that's what happened. Michigan State really needs to get off to a good start, and they did in this game. And the shooting continued to get better in this game, shot almost 40% from three, which is a dramatic improvement from where we were at the beginning of this year. Obviously, still, if you look at kind of overall shooting percentages across the country, still not anywhere close to being good overall. I think that's, again, has to really lead to where Michigan State started, not shooting the ball very well, but started to get the guys that can shoot the ball well from three, at least historically. Some shots, like obviously Jaden Akins, sometimes is a little bit more hit or miss, but when he hits shots, which he has been recently, it's been really good. Jace Richardson is hitting some shots on the outside, and then, of course, you have Trey Howman that has had good percentage shooting outside in the past as well. So love seeing this Michigan State team, blue, a team like Nebraska at home, and to kind of start 2-0 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. One thing that really stood out for me during this game was the amount of depth that Michigan State has. They are easily a 10-deep squad, and with a little bit of development and time, I think you could push it to 11 deep, 12 deep, depending on how the staff feels about Kurt Tang, for example. This team at times they did a wholesale line change, swapping out 5 guys, and especially as the game snowballed in the second half, you didn't even notice a difference in momentum shift. The team just kept winning, and Tom Izzo brought that up in his press conference when he's like, yeah, I had multiple players who wanted to come in to record stats. Jeremy Fears wanted to get a 10th assist. Jackson Kohler, his goal for the game was a double-double. He had 8 points and 12 rebounds, I believe. He wanted to come back in for a double-double because that's what this team wants, but they also realized at the end of the day, it's about winning. So they didn't end up going in at the end there because it was just a blowout. Once the team started hitting their shots, which is something we've been saying this entire year, if they hit their shots, it's going to be, a blowout. It's not going to be close. We saw that happen because I believe at halftime when it was a 10-point advantage, something around there, the Spartans were shooting 20%, like 19, 20% from three. they in the second half they shoot nearly 50% from three, and all of a sudden it is a 37-point blowout of a Nebraska team that I don't think will get a bye in the Big Ten tournament, but I certainly think they'll be around the top half of the field when when Big Ten tournament time comes around in March.
Yeah, they certainly have some talent. It's probably maybe a consistency thing with them, but they just beat Indiana yesterday, 2 days ago.
Made me
Days are
feel a
running
lot
together.
better.
Yeah, which in Indiana's obviously no slouch of a team. So, but yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit, and you saw it. Team hits almost 40% from three, and things like this can happen, especially against the mid-tier Big Ten teams or the lesser tiers. You may need it to pull out wins against the top-tier opponents in the country, but nights when you're playing opponents that may not necessarily be as deep as you or as good as you, then things like this can happen, and it certainly did. Free throw percentage is still excellent, 95% from the free throw line. Something I think we've missed in the past few years especially is just being good at free throws. Like excellent, I guess I should say. They've been all right to not so great at times, and it's at least made for some very stressful moments down the stretch. So it's nice to see so far that by and large this season we've been lights out from the charity stripes. So that's good to see. Sharing of the ball, I think that's when MSU's offense is at its best. I was a little concerned on the number of turnovers, but when you win by 37, you're just kind of nitpicking. So overall, I think if that was the one thing I guess I could say maybe wasn't so great that you can't carry over. But hey, I'll take 37-point wins any day of the week. So it
You're
works for
putting up
me.
90 in a night. I'll take 14 turnovers. If they can put up 90, if they put up 89, 90 every night, if they're committing 17 turnovers,
You'll
I
live with
won't
it.
be happy, but I'll live with it. Because if you're putting up 90, there's not going to be many teams in this country that can beat you when you're facing a Big Ten opponent. Winning
Yeah.
by 37, and if this team wanted to and didn't pull almost all of their starters and players on a hot streak during that game, this team would have put up 100, 105 points easy. It was a 40-point gap at the under 8 media timeout.
Yeah.
Izzo showed mercy. Izzo could have doubled him up, put up 100, put up 105.
Yeah, so hey, we'll take it. We'll take these good wins. Next on the docket for MSU is the Little Caesars game, I believe, isn't it?
Yep, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Oakland, 7 p.m.
Yep, Tuesday.
I'll be shipping out. Postage cleared.
Emmett's hookup came through, so we get the Greg Campy and the Golden Grizzlies at Little Caesars Arena Tuesday night. And then I believe a week from tonight, we'll be back at the Breslin against Florida Atlantic for the last two games before the Christmas break. So should hopefully be some good basketball to be played. And then, we'll start to turn the calendar into, I believe MSU plays Western before the new year, and then we'll shift back into Big Ten play full time and get into the meat of the schedule. So good start to Big Ten play. We obviously going 2-0 and rather two impressive wins. Let's hopefully carry that momentum into Little Caesars on Tuesday. So switching gears and equally impressive wins. Last night, the MSU hockey team and Adam Nightingale was in Minneapolis to take on the number one ranked Golden Gophers of Minnesota. The reason they weren't ranked number one is because, unfortunately, MSU did drop one of their games in Wisconsin last week. They did win the other, so they split the series in Madison. Wisconsin, while not as good as they are probably every year, are still a talented hockey team, so it was good to at least earn a split there. And then you fast forward to this weekend. Now you're in Minneapolis on the road against the number one team in the country. So a Big Ten play can get pretty tricky with hockey. You got a lot of talented teams there. And, well, it was certainly one of the more crazy college hockey games I've seen in a while. I was paying attention to it while doing some stuff around the house last night. And Trey Augustine, that's my biggest takeaway. MSU technically goes into the books as a tie, 3-3. MSU did win the shootout for the extra point in Big Ten play, so that's good to see. But Trey Augustine showed, and I tweeted it out, showed why he's the best goalie in the country last night. 40 saves and was uber talented, had a lot of exceptional saves, proved why he was the second-round draft pick. And yeah, MSU looked great. And so, guys, what are some of your thoughts on hockey?
I think you really talked about it. It's Trey Augustine. 42 shots on goal yesterday against Minnesota. Survived, for the most part, a 5-minute major penalty. Did end up scoring, tying the game with about 1 minute left to go in that penalty. But honestly, it was just kind of maybe more of like a fluke goal. I think it just went under his pads a little bit. I don't think he's going to make that mistake too times, but really when it went into overtime, you had at least one major breakaway save in that game that was absolutely huge. You had multiple throughout the game as well. And then once you got into a shootout, you kind of knew that, like, if you have Trey Augustine in net, once it comes to a shootout, like, you feel pretty confident every single time, and he just stonewalled the first two. The third one seemed like it really hit the post a little bit too high, and Michigan State just did enough for the first two goals to win in overtime through a shootout. So big win against Minnesota. Would love to see this game be on BTN like it was last night tonight. Obviously, it's not. I think it's on Big Ten Plus. So if you have that, definitely watch it. But we really see that how far this Michigan State program has come in the past couple of years, because I remember a few years ago going to a Minnesota MSU hockey game, and the end score was like 4, 5, 6, nothing. And you could just tell, like, the team just did not kind of deserve to be on the ice with a team like Minnesota. I think there were several points yesterday where you could kind of tell that maybe Minnesota has a little bit more overall talent. I think that it has to do with kind of some of their draft picks that are higher. But then when you have a guy like Trey Augustine, he can kind of contradict that, and he was just spectacular last night. When is he ever not spectacular? It seems like he might have one of those games that, like, you know, like maybe he wasn't as great as he typically is, but those games are great anyways. So if you have a guy that can stand on his head in the net, Trey Augustine is going to win you so many games, and he's done it in this game, and I think he's going to win Michigan State so many more games coming up in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with Zach. Augustine is the difference maker for this team. I remember texting Chris during the game yesterday and saying, "Man, it's gonna suck to see Augustine with the Griffins next year, because there's no way he's coming back to Michigan State for a third season."
Yeah.
Augustine is just a difference maker, and like you said, Zach, at points it seemed like Minnesota was a more talented team. But having Augustine back in the net definitely helped keep the Spartans competitive and gave them enough time to settle down and make this a tie game and then win it in the shootout. And you would not see that out of Michigan State hockey before Adam Nightingale took over. Also, revisiting the Wisconsin series last weekend, I believe, I would like to point out that one loss we had, we were missing Captain Red Savage with a injury for that game. So just something to, you know, if you want to put a little asterisk there, you can. I'm definitely putting one and saying that this team with Red Savage wins against that team. I believe it was, 3-0, 4-0?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Red Savage would have gotten a hat trick that game, would have been fine.
Also, the score didn't really demonstrate how close that game was. I think it's one of those games that you look at the score and you're like, oh, that wasn't even close, that wasn't even competitive. That score is one of those where you look at the box score. Like, I think there's certain sports, certain games, especially like basketball or football, you look at the box score and you're like, there's no chance like that game was competitive, but then you actually watch it and you're like, it wasn't really that far apart. So I do think 4-0's a little bit like not telling of the whole story. I think it was probably maybe more of like a 2-0 type loss. Do you agree, Chris?
Yeah, MSU actually went into the third period down 1-0 and had a couple chances to tie it early in the third. Wisconsin ended up scoring to go up 2-0, and then I think they added a couple empty netters as the game wound down. But I don't know if I'd go on a line and say Red would have had a hat trick, but I think Red is
I'm
a
going to just believe
maker.
that. Let me be in my ignorance here.
Yeah, Red is a very talented player, and there's a reason he's the captain. He's the leader of this team, and there's a reason the Red Wings have thought so highly of him, because he is a Red Wings draft pick, and I think he adds a lot more than he's not maybe your goal scoring threat in and night out, but he's a very good two-way forward. He can play very well defensively. He can win you face-offs when he plays center. He can play the wing. He can do a lot for you. So having Red would have helped a lot, I think, in that game. But that's okay. And I'm glad to see he's at least healthy enough to keep going. He played last night. Actually got an assist last night. So that's good to see. He's now good for, I think, 7 points on the season overall. And then I do want to shout out Tiernan Shouty, Tanner Kelly, and Carson Dorwer with the goals last night against Minnesota. Isaac Howard and Matt Baskell and Shane, I always butcher his name, but Shane Vensagi also added assists for the boys. So it was good to see last night as kind of a bounce back effort. I know we did end up getting another win in Wisconsin last week, but it's good to see. It's always tough to play in Minnesota. Minnesota's one of those teams that's always good every year, no matter what happened. They have so much talent on the roster year in and year out, really. And so it's good to see MSU really come through and start off the series with I know it goes in the books as a tie, but getting the shootout win and the extra Big Ten point is nice to see. And like Zach kind of hinted at, Minnesota, I think, top to bottom may have a more deep roster, but they don't have Trey Augustine. And so that's going to be, Jer and I talked about it in the hockey preview. Jeremy Dewar, when he was on, we talked about it a little bit on the hockey episode that unfortunately MSU, the weakness of this team is team defense. And you'll see it times against like a Minnesota or like when we played Boston College, teams that have very, very talented scoring threats. You'll see games where potentially all of a sudden, may go sideways, or you have, I couldn't tell you how many breakaways I counted last night for Minnesota, and Trey Augustine really just locked them down. So that's a great equalizer. And when you have a goalie who can steal games like that, that's going to serve you very well. So hopefully, I don't know I haven't seen the lineups for tonight. I would imagine Trey plays again. So hopefully he's got his A game cooking again. He had to stop 40 shots last night. He's probably going to need to stop at least 25 tonight, at least, to put MSU in a big chance. So hopefully you see the defense like to tighten it up a little bit and not allow almost 45 shots on goal. But if needed, it's nice to know that he's back there. And unfortunately, yes, I mean, as a Red Wings fan, I'm happy to see him progress through the Griffins and eventually hopefully up to Detroit. But as an MSU fan, it's going to be sad not seeing him next year. Also, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm not so sure he's going to be playing for MSU at Wrigley this year, just because of the schedule timing. USA will have, hopefully, fingers crossed, the gold medal match in the World Junior Championships the day after the Wrigley Field game. So Trey may be spoken for in other places, but we'll see. Maybe Sparty and I can get the man a private jet from Chicago to Ottawa and rush him out. He's played back-to-back games before, so let's make it happen.
Also, speaking of I would like to shout out Matthew Leahy committing to the Spartans. He is a 6'5" defenseman. He just announced his commitment today, I believe, as we're recording this on Saturday.
Awesome.
So, 7th rounder by the Maple Leafs in, I believe, last draft too. So defensive help on the way.
Yes, defense. I'll take defensive commitments any day of the week. So, but yeah, that's kind of what's happening in hockey. And like Zach mentioned, another one against Minnesota tonight. And then I believe, is it next weekend? Sorry, let me look at it real quick. We'll take this edit pause out. But I believe that's going to be it until, I don't think they play next weekend. Yeah, that's it until after Christmas at the GLI, which is December 29th and 30th at Van Andel and Grand Rapids. So Trey's potential future home next season will be hosting. We play Northern on Sunday the 29th, and then either Western or Michigan Tech. So
maybe the guys are playing will kind of slow down a little bit, and maybe Trey will be back next year.
Maybe. I mean, I guess without nerding out about hockey too much, it's all going to depend on where the Red Wings want Sebastian Cossa, I think, because if Cosa's back in Grand Rapids, there's really no sense of him and Trey splitting time in Grand Rapids. So if he's not with the big club, then maybe they'd just rather have Trey playing, 95% of the games here. So I will say shout out to Jared too. We kind of talked about this on the hockey preview episode. If you guys didn't see that episode, go back and check it out because it was a good one. But MSU is kind of a unique opportunity because the way our athletic department's set up with the full-time nutritioning and strength coaches and the way MSU cares for its athletes, you don't get that in a lot of even AHL teams. In the AHL, you're an adult and you're expected to take care of yourself and do what you need to do. Whereas here, you're watched, you're monitored, you have doctors, you have nutritionists, you have dietitians, you have everybody kind of catering to you and getting you in the best possible form you can be. So it's all going to be about gameplay for Trey. And if for some reason Cosa's in Grand Rapids again next year, which I think Red Wings fans would all be hitting the panic button if that's the case. But I don't know. If Cosa's in Grand Rapids, then maybe you see Trey stay one more year here and then move up, but I just don't see it. Red Wings need help up in Grand Rapids, or up in Grand Rapids and up in Detroit, so we'll see, I guess. But there's my little bit of hockey speech. But anything else you guys want to hit before we shut it down and get ready for the football talk?
Just a quick shout out. They are officially now selling in the NIL store Michigan State customized hockey jerseys in case, a Spartan hockey fan or yourself would like one in your life. I believe that is now on, I believe that was on Darian Harris's Twitter, so make sure to check his Twitter out, Darian A. Harris.
So in case you guys want to know what to get me for Christmas, I'll take that Trey Augustine #1.
Yeah, my sister already has one.
Yeah. Actually, I would love a Red Savage jersey too, 21 Savage. But yeah, that's I think that's all we've got for me. For us, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back later in the weekend and early week with some football recruiting roundup and where we're at with the portal and the National Signing Day that happened 10 days ago now, which seems ridiculous that was 10 days ago, but yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Like always, we appreciate you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit us up on social media or email us at spartanshadowspodcast@gmail.com. We'll get with you. So in the meantime, hope everybody's having a great weekend, getting all your Christmas shopping done, and go green.
Why?